This morning we're going to deal with some things that, quite frankly, could be very painful, but which I trust will also be self-revealing. Perhaps there's a kind of a risk involved, the willingness to deal with these things, to grow through the experience. The mere suggestion of the word hurt may jog the memory in a resensing of pain and reopening of wounds. Hurt and its pain are a very important part of the human experience and a byproduct of human relationships. And since life is set in the framework of human relations, there are countless opportunities of feeling hurt, if we're so inclined. And that last phrase may be startling, if you're so inclined. In other words, it is important to face the fact that we always have a choice. That no matter what a person does or leaves undone, you do not have to give him the power to decide how you're going to feel or think. Quite often a person will say, I don't have to take that from anybody. You've heard those words. But the fact is, when he says that in that tone, he is taking it. He's taking it into his consciousness. He's holding on to it. He's making something very deep about it within himself. We might rephrase it or restate it with a different tone. I don't have to take that. And you don't. You don't have to take the hurt. You don't have to react. You don't have to say that this is something that is hurting me inside. It only hurts you if you're in that consciousness. It's an interesting thing that we normally experience hurt or emotional pain in an involvement with our family, in a social small circle of friends. Rarely are we hurt by someone we do not know. Have you ever thought about that? For instance, someone in a crowd may call toward you and say, you're a wimp. You'll probably laugh, or at most be a little nettled or a little disturbed about it. But rarely will you be hurt. But if your brother or your spouse calls you a wimp, you may feel deep hurt. This is strange. The reason may be that in a close relationship, there is a vulnerability of intimate knowledge of one another, bringing into sharp question whether we really know ourselves. We may feel very insecure as a person, needing a constant reassurance of love and respect from those around us who we love and from whom we expect love. We may be extremely susceptible to disappointment and dashed expectations from these people. This is true in its greatest degree in cases of psychological and even physical battering or child abuse. Unfortunately, human consciousness acting as it does, for most persons there's a subconscious accumulation of the memory of incidences causing hurt, leaving scars and even festering open wounds of rage and unforgiveness, and with frustrations that block the divine creative flow. Now, in truth, we're coming to realize that we cannot maintain what I like to call a storehouse of hurt and enjoy either health or happiness. Medical research is proving almost conclusively that most, if not all, physical ills are emotionally induced. For instance, arthritis has been called bottled hurt. Robert Burns talks about the good wife Kate at home nursing her wrath to keep it warm. And you can be Kate suffered from high blood pressure, rheumatism, and various and sundry complaints, because the one goes hand in hand with the other. The word resentment comes from the root words meaning to re-sense, to re-sense. It is a constant re-sensing of the experience. We nurse it and keep it warm, re-sense it over and over again. It could be said that like the good wife Kate, most persons have a mental device similar to a string of rosary beads. And as in the ritual of prayer, we go over and over the scars and wounds of hurt, counting them one by one. In time, they lose control and become controlled by the ravaging effects of the pain. It could be said that one's whole personality in the course of his life may be shaped in the image of his hurt. This is tragic, but oh so common. I want to invite you to join with me in a little experience, an imaging experience. In mind, now in imagination, I'm distributing to you some slips of paper or perhaps a notebook and pen, pencil. I want you again in your imagination to think about the most important hurt that is disturbing you, that's festering within you, or perhaps several of them. I'd like you to just imagine now that you're writing a paragraph about this. It may be something you've never shared with anyone in the world. Perhaps you've even been unwilling to face it yourself. So in your mind now, you might want to close your eyes as you do this. Just imagine you're writing down on this book a paragraph explaining this hurt as best as you can explain it. Not defending it, but just saying what it is. And perhaps if you want to, you may do 2 or 3 of them, or perhaps just make a list of them. Now let's just imagine that we're taking about 15 minutes for this. I won't take 15 minutes. We'll just take a few minutes to kind of get the feel of it. Just imagine this is going to be a 15-minute period and you're writing these paragraphs about your hurts. Just think about it for a while. All right, now that's the symbol of a period when we've taken to write these down. You can open your eyes now. Now just in a sense, you have this paper, this notebook in your hand. And let these things that you've written symbolize the festering hurts that have been so much with you for so long a period of time. Now suppose I come and stand before you personally, right, face to you and looking you in the eye. And I say to you, give me the paper. And you'll be free forever from the pain of this hurt and from its influence in your life. Now think carefully about this. Because as you give me the paper, you're going to give up all entitlement to your self-pity. You're going to give up all the insistence that what he did or what she said has had such a harmful effect on your life. All that'll be over with now. You're going to give it all over. Now, are you willing to give it to me? Are you willing to be free from that hurt? If you think about this for a while, you may be surprised to find, if you're honest with yourself, that at least you're not spontaneously eager to let it go. Why do you suppose this is? It is because your emotional pain is what I call substitutionary fulfillment. It's important to see this. Someone may do or say something against you that is disturbing, and if you realize that there's little or nothing you can do about it, which is normally the case, you may turn to self-pity as an alternative. You may be deeply hurt, and you may feel with good reason. You may say, of course I'm hurt. Look what he did to me. So now, are you willing to let this go? To give up the whole experience, the memory of it, the pain, the self-pity? Something within you may be crying out at this point. No, don't take my hurt away from me. It's mine. I have a right to something. If I can't have things as I want them, at least let me have this substitute. This is all very subtle, but it's real. If you think about it, it's real. Because whether you know it or not, you've been holding on to these hurts because you won't let them go. They're a substitute for the thing that you feel you were hurt by. In the exterior orientation of life, it is common to feel that your life is constantly shaped by what happens around you and to you. You may believe that something unexpected invariably comes up in your relationships with others. Wouldn't you know it? It always happens. I'm always getting disturbed at this, always getting hurt. Something personally hurtful. But the truth is, the unexpected are traps that you have previously set for yourself. So because of your poor self-image, your feelings of inadequacy, your feelings of paranoia, you are hurtable. And so you're hurt. But you're really caught in your own trap. Someone has said that a strong feeling of hurt over something someone has done to you is a kind of temporary insanity. That's strong words. According to the standard psychological evaluation, you're insane whenever you're not in control of your behavior. But haven't you said, I just can't help feeling hurt after what he did to me? No control. Revealing, isn't it? Much of the interpersonal and intercultural confusion in the world today may be attributed to this temporary insanity, where individuals and groups, sometimes whole nations, lose control of their behavior. I recall the experience of that great black statesman Bayard Rustin. While riding in an elevator in Spokane, Washington, he was suddenly ordered by a white man to lace up his shoes. There was tension among the people there. But Rustin, without thinking, didn't object. He cheerfully stooped down and laced the man's shoes. The man handed him a tip. And Rustin refused, saying, "I didn't do it for money. I assumed you really needed help." And the man was terribly embarrassed. Then he was apologetic. But to his credit, he invited Bayard Rustin to his room, where they talked for hours about how to erase the aberration of prejudice from human consciousness. You might say, well, that's Bayard Rustin. I couldn't act like that. It's not easy, for certain. But as students of truth, we need to honestly face up to this tendency both to be hurt and to cause hurt in such situations. In both cases, there is a poor self-image, even self-contempt, a lack of true self-love. No, it's not easy to react in such a completely selfless and non-resistant manner. But the important thing is, you don't have to take that. You don't have to take it. Give way to love. Turn on more light. One of the most common defenses that we offer as excuses as to why we're so easily hurt or upset is, well, you don't understand. It's just the way I am. I've always been emotional. But this is not true. It is not the way you are. Because innately you're a spiritual being with the potential to be poised and centered in the Christ mind so that nothing can disturb the calm peace of your soul. You are not your emotions. You are a person with a built-in conduit through which emotions flow. You're not emotion. You have emotions, with the power to manage them and rightly direct them toward the positive reinforcing of what you're about. A person may sometimes fail to manage his emotions, and we call him emotionally immature. But this is not just the way he is, like being brown-eyed and dimple-faced. He can grow and change. And as Paul says, it's not yet manifest what you should be. No matter what has occurred, you are not hurt. You're you. You're not hurt. Standing here with a sign on you, I'm hurt. This is my name. You're you. You're a person experiencing hurt feelings. But if you identify as hurt, and there's nothing you can do about it, because that's the way I am. That's me. I'm hurt. But if you identify as a person experiencing feelings of hurt, then you can choose not to experience the hurt. That's very subtle. It's so important to think about that. Now, you may want to get back to the deep wounds of hurt. You may want to talk some more about them. You might want to justify it. You might want to say, but why did she or he do that to me? Now, I don't want to minimize or make light of something that may be a deep, painful memory within you, some horrendous experience. But right now, you can't change it. It's done. It's happened. It's over. It has come to pass. But it is your memory of it that is enduring. So the question is to ask yourself, not why did he do it to you, but why am I upset right now about it? Why am I still hurting over it? No one has the power to upset you or to hurt you emotionally. But anyone can provide you with an excellent opportunity to be hurt if you're hurtable. In other words, you're vulnerable to emotional pain because you do not really know who you are. Because you say, I'm hurt, but you're not hurt, you're you. And the person you are deep within yourself is invulnerable to hurt, if you can identify with that inner self. Now, you may feel inadequate as a worker, so the boss's remarks cut you to the quick. You may feel insecure in your role as a parent or a spouse or an offspring, so you suffer from feelings of paranoia over what they are always doing to you. They always do it. Why do they always do that to me? Your healing begins when you realize that no matter what has happened, no matter how deep and grievous this really is, the incident is external. The reaction is your own. And you take a giant stride toward wholeness when you remove the to me. Why does the boss always give the extra work to me? The to me is the barb that hangs you up. He didn't do it to you. He did it, evidencing where he is in consciousness. But how you receive it is an evidence of where you are in consciousness. As a matter of fact, the boss may have handed that extra work to you and may do it all the time because he respects you, because he's tabbing you for a promotion, because he thinks you're the only one that he can trust it to. But what happens in your consciousness, where you are, how you receive it? So it is important, vitally important, to develop the knack of keeping dispassionate and objective, so that when someone affronts you in any way, you can say to yourself, I wonder what is disturbing him. There was not why did he do it to me, but why did he do it? What in his consciousness is causing this? In the spirit of love, you can know it's really his problem. I must not let it become my problem by reacting personally. And if you keep your poise throughout, you'll be in a position to help the other person who actually may be striking out because of his own inner hurting. There's a likelihood that much of our hurt comes from a tendency to expect too much of someone. Our security so often is based, more than we know, on having the world just sort of stay where it is. You want your wife to be there, your husband, your child, your friends, the boss. You want them to be there in their normal, natural place. You want them to be constants, doing their thing in a stable sense. It's a kind of infantile narcissism. You remember Narcissus was a beautiful youth who delighted in looking at himself in the quiet reflection of a pool. And he was always upset and hurt by anything or anyone who troubled the glassy surface of the pool. So narcissism means that you resent anything that frustrates you. And it's an infantile reaction. Watch a little child as he crawls around on the floor. He stands up under the table and bangs his head. He turns around, he slaps the table. Bad, bad, bad. The table bumped me. Why did the table do that to me? It's an infantile feeling. Everything you want to be just right. And if it is not, you think as it ought to be, it calls for an emotional outburst or an inner feeling of corrosive hurt. Now, this is not to say that we should expect errant behavior in other people, but only to say that we should not be dependent on what the other person does. And so often we are. Our peace of mind, our stability in the day is dependent upon people being in the right place, saying the right things, the bus coming on time, the taxi driver pulling over to the curb instead of turning on the off-duty line sight and going right by you. Our stability and our peace of mind and our sense of success in a day depends on what they do out there. But so often, it's helpful to take an affirmation such as this one a teacher gave me once. Father, forgive me for expecting in the human that which is found only in the divine. We tend to expect people to be just right, to say just the right things. We're very demanding of other people, yet very easy on ourselves. It's important to be easy on other people and demanding of ourselves. Father, forgive me for expecting in the human that which is found only in the divine. The hurts that you carry in your mind are retained in your memory. Have you ever said, I wish I had a good memory? We've all said that sometime because we have a hard time remembering names or dates or things, items on a list. There's no such thing as a poor memory. Have you ever thought about that? The inability to remember is not something that is lacking in your equipment. It is that you're remembering too much of the wrong things. So that's why I say an important key to good memory is developing a good forgettery. A woman was enrolling in a memory training course. In the hall before the first session, she was telling a friend how upset she was over a fight that she had had with another friend. She was going over all the details of it and so forth, and she did this, and she said that. Isn't that terrible? I'm so hurt. Her friend said, why don't you forget all that? The woman said with blazing eyes, I don't intend to forget that ever after the hurt she did to me. And mind, she was enrolling in a course in good memory. Here was a woman taking a memory course whose memory was already chronically sharp. She kept retelling her hurts, the real or imagined slights, and she remembered them so strongly that with each telling, the sense of hurt became greater and greater and greater. Her need was to develop a good forgettery, to let it go. So the best way to sharpen the memory is to concentrate on getting rid of the clutter in our memory mind, our storehouse of hurts, and form the habit of letting things go that are excess baggage. Paul gives us an effective key in his letter to the Ephesians. This is something that I've long remembered, and it's been a great inspiration to me. Let not the sun go down on your wrath. It's a simple statement. Let not the sun go down on your wrath. In the course of a day, it's so easy to indulge in negative states, because as I freely admit, it would take the patience of a saint to keep a perpetually poised attitude all through the day. We get upset. We retain slights and hurts. We all do, let's face it. But when you retire at night, Paul says, empty your mind of these unwanted things, even as you may empty your pockets and as you lay your clothes aside. Tell yourself as you go through these things that have happened to you during the day, some slight, something that someone has said, something someone failed to do that you think they should have done, I don't have to take that. I don't have to take it. I don't have to take it with me in consciousness. Let not the sun go down on your wrath. Lay it aside. You don't have to take it. You don't have to keep it. Let it go. Don't go to sleep on it. It has come to pass. You might affirm something like, I don't resist or resent. I bless every person, knowing they know not what they did. I forgive them and give way to love. Other than that, is you're going to be the one that's going to be hurt. The other person goes off scot-free, and that hurts you even more. Let it go. You can't retain it and have your peace of mind or your health of body either. It's one or the other. Remember, Jesus emphatically said, love your enemies and pray for those who despitefully use you, that you may be sons of your Father. Love your enemies. That's hard. Pray for those who despitefully use you. Pray for the people who have given you hurt. But you see, he's saying that you may be sons, that you may be in tune with the divine flow. The moment you hold on to these negative things, and you break the flow, and you're in trouble. But it's of your own doing. Remember the impetuous Peter who once cried out, but Master, how oft shall we forgive? Until 7 times? And Jesus said very calmly, I say unto you, until 70 times 7. In other words, eternally, constantly. In other words, Peter is saying, but you can't go on forgiving people. How much can a person take? That's just it. How much do you want to take? Jesus is saying, if you want light in the room, you have to turn on the switch. If you refuse, you're going to sit in the darkness, and it's of your own choosing. How much do you want to take? The power that goes with our divine potential is only ours when we act the part. That's why Paul says, as many as are led by the Spirit of God, these are the sons of God. If you keep in tune, then you're free. But you're only a spiritual being, a child of God, when you let it flow through your fingertips and into your every action. Turn on the light. Let go of bitterness and hurt. Forgive and forget. Not so much because the other person deserves it. We so often say, he doesn't deserve my love, my forgiveness. Perhaps he doesn't. But don't you deserve it? In other words, you express forgiveness not for his sake. That's a byproduct, but for your sake, because you need to give way and get into the giving for consciousness to let the divine flow manifest through you. You need the healing unity, and only right thinking can bring it. So important to check up occasionally on what you're thinking, how you're feeling. Run things through what I call an imaginary positive detector. If a thought or feeling is unsatisfactory and harmful to yourself or another, if it isn't in accord with your good, if it isn't true of God, then forget it. Let it go. You can't afford to keep it. And there's another kind of hurt that is rarely considered in this context. Someone near and dear to you may have passed on, and you're in a turmoil of emotions over it. This is understandable. You may be looking back in grief and sadness, remembering other times of companionship and love, or perhaps also remembering with feelings of guilt that this is how it should have been. And a very subtle point is that grief is to a large extent hurt. You are hurt that this person on whose love you depended has gone off and left you. You have the fear and the resentment and the deep hurt of abandonment. So you need to forgive this person that's passed on. Forgive him, loose him, let him go. You'll find that if you go through this process of forgiveness, most of the grief will fade away. The relationship has come to pass, It brought you just the experiences that you need, and it will continue to bless you with growth if you can let it go and walk on. Remember, the great need is to know who and what you are. Within you, at the level of your oneness with God, there's that in you in which you can never be hurt. You can never know pain if you identify with this greater self of you. And here there's a veritable dynamo of love. It could be said that all the love in the universe is centered at this still point in the turning world within you. And if you can keep consciously centered in this awareness, you will easily let go of anything that is hurtful. No matter that in human consciousness you may wonder if that person who did that terrible thing to you and caused you so much pain, if he's now reaping the reward of suffering. Just to even entertain such a thought is to hold on to your own pain. There's no way that you can let go of this pain unless you let it all go, totally, completely, everything related to it. As we're told, what is that to thee? Follow thou me. And be willing to believe, to paraphrase the words of Joseph, that though someone did something to you with intent to hurt or harm, both physically and emotionally, God intended it for good. So accept it as good and face forward and walk on, and you'll be blessed by it. Give up your hurts. Give up the festering pain within you that now you realize is really self-directed, self-imposed, and give way to love. Are you willing to let it go? I'm sure that all of us have thought of something during this time that we're disturbed about or hurt over. Are you really willing to let it go? Let's follow our exercise. Let's close our eyes. And again, in your imaging mind, let's say that you have this page or this notebook full of paragraphs over hurt things, no matter what they are. Hold this in your hand again for a moment. For a moment, go through the process of thinking about them and asking yourself, am I really willing to let it go? To give up the claim on self-pity and the fact that this person did something terrible to me that's ruined my life. Are you willing to let all that go? Are you willing to be free? And what I'm going to do again is to just paint an imaginary picture. Here in this auditorium, we're all in a circle. In the center of the circle is a great urn, and there's a fire burning in the urn. I want you to face yourself again. Ask yourself, are you really willing to let it go? Let this spirit well up in within you that says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. I want you, at your own direction, whenever you feel so led, walk up to this urn in the center. Just drop the sheet or the notebook in. Drop it in and let it go. Stand there for a moment and watch the fire, purifying fire, consume it. Watch this fire become blazing as one by one we walk up and drop our hurts, as we've written them in paragraphs, in the urn. The fire becomes greater and greater. Pretty soon there's a tremendous blaze, symbolizing the tremendous freeing, unburdening, releasing consciousness of peace that comes as we let go of our hurts. And let's all stand back and just watch this fire for a while. See it as a great light. A light, the light of our life. Remember those great words of Isaiah. Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thy health shall spring forth speedily. Let's dwell on this for a few minutes. See how good it feels, how clean we feel inside, how refreshed, how free, now that the hurt is gone. If for any reason we have found it difficult to let go of certain hurts, unwillingness to release the person after what he did or what she did or said or didn't do or didn't say, just tell yourself, You're going to rethink this when you get home today. Go through the exercise again and again and again, and keep on until you're willing to let it go. Maybe you want to go home somewhere and have a little cry first. That's all right. Perhaps that's healthy. Then let it go and release it, and you're free. Life for many of us can begin on an entirely new level. We can begin to experience a whole new dimension of awareness when we let go of our hurts. Stand up in the consciousness. I'm poised and centered in the Christ mind, and nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. So let's just rejoice in those words. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So be it.